Hello, Francesca. Hello. We're really happy that we are able to today to talk to you as in Berlin.
Dankeschön.
Obviously, without any repression from the German state. Is that perception actually correct? Or how were you welcomed in Germany this time?
No, it's very different. It's not pretense. Look, to be totally honest, I've had a discussion, an exchange with the German government soon after my my return to Tunisia, and there was, there was also a sense of dismay among German officials, in the sense not all humanity is lost. So there is something extremely worrisome about how the police operates, and I've seen it on my own. With on myself, and it's not different from the kind of repression that the general public who takes the street to protest the genocide is going through. Of course, what happened to me is much lighter, but it was very traumatizing. I don't overstate, I do not exaggerate that. So there was a moment of reckoning that was triggered by that. And now it's been very different. I mean, it's different that for the first time in years, I was not, I didn't have an issue in entering the country, because normally there is that 15 minutes of waiting while the police check. So clearly there was something. This has not been the case. There is so much warmth and support around the city. I've not been in any area where there was not at least not one person, Germans, not foreigners, but Germans stopping me and say, "Oh, you're Francesca. So you came back. Thank you for everything you're doing, and it's so important to have you here." And so I've had a number of meetings that show me that things are changing. You might not realize this because you are into the day-to-day struggle to defend the legality, to uphold international law. But I find it so beautiful that it's the citizens who are taking this upon themselves. It's not easy. I don't want to beautify this, because it's even unacceptable that people keep on being beaten up in the street, punched in their face by the law enforcement agents who should not do that. You cannot punch protesters in the face. You cannot, the images that come out of these countries are shocking. But there is a sense of awareness, there is a sense of movement. If you look at, again, as we were saying before, the polls, and there is a shift in the public opinion. So taking a step back, and these are my 2 cents, this is not the first genocide that happens under everyone's eyes. I know this is particularly brutal because it's televised. It's really not televised. It's denounced by and recounted by the very victims. And then there are the journalists, 217 journalists who have been killed. So you see there is also an attempt to strangle the truth from coming out. But at the same time, there is a sense that the people in Gaza are still there, believing in the possibility to have a life in the little that remains to them of Palestine. And we cannot afford the luxury of giving up because the situation is bad in this part of the world. There is, for the first time, vis-a-vis a genocide, a global awakening and a global mobilization. We need to be aware of it, because of course it's like if the system that has allowed Israel's impunity to fester, which is made of the impunity that member states have granted Israel, it's made of complicity of a variety of actors, businesses, universities, the financial sectors, all those who have normalized the situation. But there is a wind of change, and we need to really take a deep breath in and out and know that this is what we have to do. It's just the right thing to do, to continue to ask for the application of international law. And this is not an act of charity that is asked to the German people. It's an act of humanity, responsibility, and legality.
But how would you judge in that context, like the kind of apparent reluctance from the German government and like more criticism on Israel's war on Gaza? Yeah, how would you judge that?
It's not just about the government. But I was in a talk at the Berlin, the so-called Free University of Berlin, and with Professor Eyal Weizmann yesterday, and he was reminding us that genocides happen because of denial of genocide. This is not unique. This is something that has happened in Germany as well. I keep on reminding my Italian fellows, but it's the same that I tell people in Germany. It's not true that the Holocaust happened in the dark because people didn't know. People knew. People knew because, I mean, for example, in Italy, the beginning of the genocide started with the discrimination of the Jewish people, with the dehumanization of the Jewish people. And frankly, racial laws were passed to expel Jewish people from so many spheres of life. And this was an act of the parliament. So there was a public act that expelled the Jews from our civil life and then from the land, and then they were sent to die. So people knew, people always know, and there is a tendency to deny the genocide, which is both a reflex of the dehumanization of the other, of not recognizing the dignity of those who are the victims of the genocide. And it's happening now as it has happened for other genocided people before. But again, I would like you to focus on the positive, on the silver lining, and the fact that there is an awareness that what's happening is completely wrong and monstrous, and there are people reacting to this. So you shouldn't despair in the face of the denial. You should keep moving, keep growing, keep, on one hand, holding the ground. But at the same time, I also want people to reflect on what the Palestinians are telling us in the moment of utter sacrifice they are enduring as a people. And it's the word sumud. I mean, I smile when I think of the global flotilla, which is global, and it's a flotilla made of individuals like us, really stepping up, putting their life in the line, taking huge risks for all of us, for humanity, where member states, frankly, have an obligation to break the siege, to stop the genocide, and they're not doing that. But sumud means both resilience, and the resilience is more than resistance. Resistance has a meaning that doesn't convey what is needed now, which is the resilience is keeping on living and graciously, and keeping on living and loving despite the adversity. But also sumud means resilience and steadfastness. The capacity to react, to adapt, not to be passive, and be fluid, so as to overcome the challenges. I find it so beautiful, telling, and inspiring.
But you're a legal scholar with a long years of experience, and it has to stand by and see that international jurisdiction actually is simply ignored by Israel. And on the other turn is acknowledge also that by the Western powers which are supporting the government in Israel. Have you lost confidence in international law?
I wouldn't say that I've lost trust in the law, because the law is very clear. The law is wonderfully powerful in the way it's also empowering us. It's a learning experience to understand how the law is being violated. Because this is the thing, it's not, as I've said before, it's not the lack of legal clarity, it's the lack of law. The lack of a normative framework is the lack of enforcement. And when there is no enforcement, then there should be justiciability. So there should be someone held accountable at the government level, and it trickles down to every layer. So I do not think that it's the moment for despair. Despairing would be a measure or an act of privilege, deciding not to because we are tired, and of course we are tired. But at the same time, it's not about us. As long as there is life to be saved, there is no time to really rest and recover. Although we need to rest and recover and always be healthy ourselves, mentally, spiritually, physically. But again, this is in the time of genocide. We need to demand on us an extra effort.
You are working relentlessly to make public what is happening in Gaza and who's profiting from it. So you published this report in June. And besides that, Germany is the second biggest arms supplier to Israel behind the United States. Who else is profiting here, and who else can be fight against to stop being complicit genocide?
Look, I think that the added value, I mean, my report mentions 48 entities. If my report were to be taken as a list, I would have failed. So the added value of that report is that it exposes the system that is fed by a variety of actors, a system which is profiting from the illegality of the occupation, the racial segregation and apartheid, and today the genocide. And my work has built upon the incredible effort and decades of effort of civil society, primarily Palestinians. But you see, he's Israeli, and so there are so many Israelis who stand against apartheid, and they should not be invisibilized. There are so many Jewish people, including in this country, who do not want this to be done in their names. And so there are the students who have scrutinized what their university is doing. There are civil servants who are reminded every day of what it means to serve a country which is such a strong constitution. I mean, the German constitution is beautiful. It's so inspiring to read that document, and they are reminded that they have a choice. They are civil servants, but today sometimes they're asked to be more servants than civil, and this is wrong. So and there are civil servants who are stepping up. There are scholars who fight in order to have debate. Look at the Free University of Berlin. I mean, I had a talk yesterday. Of course, behind closed door, of course, a limited number of people, and still it's a step forward. I'm not... I'm someone who knows that long distances are covered patiently, sometimes with small steps. And it's one step after another that we need to be aware of. So change is produced collectively. And so this is why I say there is an entire system that has made Gaza a crime scene with the fingerprints of all of us. But we should look at that civil society, for example, the BDS, who profits, don't buy into the occupation, Profundo, and so many others who are scrutinizing and interrogating different sectors' complicity. There are scholars who are exposing the role of the Israeli university system, of Israeli academia. There are a network of Israeli academics calling for a boycott and calling for divestment and calling for sanctions. And so we need to link the dots and to unite across dots. So, and there is an army of moral warriors out there made of different professions, of different paths, different backgrounds, and And yeah, they're still not defeated as a human rights community.
There's also a lot of harassment on your person, like also from like, I don't know if you follow German media, for example.
No, I don't. No, I don't. But I don't.
It's really horrible, like from the standard, like which is like way low.
It speaks to their misery. It just says how miserable they are instead of doesn't define who I am.
But are you also afraid of like being cancelled at one point from like the United Nations, or is there any pressure like?
No, but this is not a fear. I mean, I remind people this is not my fight. This is not my battle. I've been called upon serving the United Nations, and this is something that I do, really taking upon a huge sacrifice that is not just limited to me. There is my family. There is me against my family members. The sanctions that the US imposed on me are very harsh, with very practical and tangible implications. And at the same time, you know, I think that moral integrity has a price, and it's a price I'm willing to pay. Even for me, the German media smearing me or the Italian media smearing me are of no relevance, because they are standing on the wrong side of history. It's not about me, you know. I'm just a tool to make the world concerning the occupied Palestinian territory less unjust and monstrous. So when there was a few months ago, 6 months ago, the storm against me and the push of the pro-genocide lobby to have me out of the UN, I was very, very calm and relaxed. And I have to tell you the truth. I mean, I was like, oh, this is the good time. This is the good opportunity to step out because I'm exhausted. And at the same time, no, I got the confidence, the trust of the United Nations. I mean, the smears are like background noise. The reality is that there is a genocide, and as a European, I need to be better than my ancestors.